This is a quick video that just gives an overview of my propane tent heater. It's a very common piece of equipment used by overlanders, and I found it to be very helpful for winter camping. Going in a somewhat random order here, I like winter camping. I really like camping out in the snow. It's quiet, no bugs, less crowded. So if you're going to do that, one really nice piece of gear here, and I'm going to read the name off this because we always misquote, we always call it a heater buddy or a Mr. Buddy. Strictly speaking, if you can see that label, it is a Mr. Heater Portable Buddy, otherwise more commonly known as a buddy heater. Runs off propane. Now you can see my setup's a little different. You can just screw one of those little 1 pound green, I guess whatever color, propane bottles right on there. Problem is you won't get a full night out of it. I went ahead, bought the filter. If you don't use the filter, you risk destroying that ceramic element. So it's well worth, I can $5, $10, whatever these things cost. You just put a little filter in line. Inexpensive hoses. You can get this stuff on Amazon. You can get it at most of your like farm supply stores, Farm and Fleet, Runnings, Rural King, whatever you've got near you. These have actually been very common. I've seen them at building supply stores. The whole setup, the hose, the filter, the heater. For the same price, you can get them on Amazon. So they have become very popular. Obvious question, gee, can't you die of carbon monoxide or burn down your tent? Yes and yes. Very unlikely. But for the carbon monoxide, I just keep a carbon monoxide detector in the tent if I'm going to use this. And they're really cheap, 10, 20 bucks on Amazon. Lots of different features. They run off a battery, very handy. I like having that regardless. Revere Overland did a really nice video on a forced air heater where the ignition source is outside and away from your tent. It's a great idea. I would still run a carbon monoxide detector because heater elements can crack. I had a friend whose life was saved by a carbon monoxide detector in her house. For that reason, the heat element, the heat transfer element cracked, the combustion gases got mixed in with the forced air, blew carbon monoxide all through her house. The alarm awoke her and saved her life. So bear that in mind. Whatever you're going to use to heat where you're camping, highly recommend a carbon monoxide detector. We used to run an old Jayco hard side. First thing in the winter, I'd always take the carbon monoxide detector out of the drawer in the kitchen, pop the batteries in, ready to go again. This is one issue about, one potential solution about burning down the tent, which very much could happen. I work for a fiber cement building material company, so I just took a piece of scrap fiber cement. I set that underneath. They do a pretty good job of containing the heat by design. I put this down as well. So could I still burn to death in my tent? Well, I suppose so. I mean, it's well designed. It's protected against getting knocked over. All sorts of good features on this. Of course, if you're running it in the tent, you open vents to let the air, the heat and the humidity out as well. You don't want to trap a lot of humidity in your tent just for comfort and durability reasons. No matter how well you design this, that's really, really hot. And if you've tent camped, or I've got a rooftop tent, one way or another, you could accidentally get something in there. So we'll say there's absolutely no way to be 100% certain that you can never start a fire with something hot. But I will say I feel very comfortable with this inside the tent with me. But I set it up very carefully. I put it on a insulating material, and I set it in a place in the tent where it is extremely unlikely that anything could get anywhere near that heated surface. So again, super fantastic piece of gear. Ran it in some very cold conditions. It wasn't like below 0 Fahrenheit, but it was cold. I don't know, maybe 15, 20 degrees overnight. It was pretty unpleasant, but with this thing, I was toasty. One thing I did do is I didn't have my carbon monoxide detector, so I opened too many vents. So my midsection closest to the heater was cooking and my head was freezing. So I did fix that afterwards. Have the CO monitor so I don't have to worry about it, and then only open enough vents to keep the air moving without my extremities being subjected to the cold air. But again, super, super worthwhile piece of gear. I think typically about 100 bucks. And then again, the hose in this is a little extra. And you can see I run this off a propane tank. I have a Y, so I can run my buddy heater and my Coleman stove, actually cheap knockoff, imitation Coleman stove, off of a standard backyard propane cylinder. Very, very handy, lasts for days and days and days without need for a refill.